I rarely met anyone I wanted to date long term, let alone marry. Yeah, and I dated my share of jerks and players, but I'm talking about the guys who would come on all rainbows and unicorns the first couple dates, and then pull out their job description and wish list of stuff I had to have or do to be good enough for them. I mean, they didn't care who I was or what I wanted. They didn't care I was working 2 jobs through chronic pain and exhaustion. It was all about what I had to have or do for them. Well, okay, bye-bye. I mean, so many of these guys were still living at home with their mommies, even into their 30s. And I'm not dissing. If you've got that option, good for you. But I can't be your mommy, and I don't want to be. Well, here's an example. Gene, I can't tell you specifically why I wasn't interested in this guy, but he was insistent, and we went out once. And what'd he do? He took me to his house, to his parents' house. And his father, his brother, and him all get started. They're trashing on his mother. She's fat, she's ugly, to her face. They're going on about his ex-wife and their ex-girlfriends. They're fat, they're ugly, you're not fat, you're pretty. Oh, well, gee, thanks. You know, if I'd had a car, if I'd had any way out of there, I'd have went and given his mom a hug and told her I was sorry she had to live like that and left. But I didn't. And the whole time I was there, those 3 went on. They're fat, they're ugly, they're fat, they're ugly. So a couple years later, Gene comes in where I'm working with 2 of his friends and his new girlfriend. And he introduces me to her, and she gets all nasty, and they're all sitting there laughing. And a few minutes later, she goes to the bathroom, and they all start. She's fat, she's ugly, and Gene's just staring at me. You know, well, you trying to make her jealous, me jealous? You know, if there was any doubt in my mind, I dodged a bullet with you. Never saw him again. All I know is I heard through mutual friends that he married her. See, he wasn't interested in me. I was just a body to fill his job description. So now I guess I was supposed to be flattered that I looked good enough for him. But I had no delusions I was going to have that 20-year-old face or body when I was 40, 50, 60 years old. I guess I was supposed to say, oh, it's a man, God. Pick me. Pick me. Oh, how about QC guy? We went out a few times. We went out after work. And let's just say he did something that there was no coming back from. No second chance. And what'd he do? He had women I didn't even know coming up to me at work asking me why I wouldn't go out with him again. It's none of your business. I don't know you. I guess I could have been trashing him all over the plant. I guess I wasn't trained up the right way. You know, Vicki never asked. I would have told her I thought we were friends. But no, a while later she asked me to go over there with a group of people to help him move. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I wish him no ill will. And he's all happy. My girlfriend's pregnant. We're moving in together. And his girlfriend just looked miserable. I mean, she did not say a word the whole time. And we weren't the only ones there. Even his parents were there. I guess I was supposed to be jealous that he had trapped himself a woman. How about materials guy? You know, he's divorced with 4 kids, and he's got this psycho ex. And we dated for a while, and I moved in with him. And it wasn't a month or 2 before he starts trying to play the same head games with me he'd been accusing his ex of. I mean, I'm thinking we're having a conversation, and he'll get all nasty and try to start a fight over nothing. And it didn't happen once or twice, but by the 3rd time, I was done. I just left. And he starts calling me and leaving messages, leaving nasty, accusing me of stealing his waterbed, leaving threats, and just trying to suck me into the same games he was playing with his ex. Oh no. I took those messages to the police, and I said, listen, he's got kids. I don't want to cause trouble. Just file a report. Tell him to go away. Just tell him to go away. And don't get me wrong, I was pissed. And I could have caused trouble. I could have been trashing him around town and trashing him to his friends, but I'd already wasted enough time and energy on this guy. Guess I just wasn't trained up the right way. And then you know what he did? He had some woman that we worked with that I really didn't know, that I had never spoke to outside of the work, calling me, telling me, Tom's got this, Tom's got that. I don't care. Why are you calling me? You know, Vicki never asked me why I left. I'd have told her. I thought we were friends. How about the materials coordinator? Now, this is a good one. I worked with this guy for almost a year, and I really didn't know him personally. All he ever said was he liked to work 90-hour weeks, and he knew bars where he could take his wife and little kids on the weekends. And he starts bragging on his label, and he asked me to come to his house to cut his kid's hair. And as I get there and I'm getting out of the car, his wife comes out the front door, all snarly and nasty. Wow! And he's just standing there laughing and staring at me. So now I go back to work, and he's got women I barely know coming up to me going, would you go out with him? Would you go out with him? No, he's married. Well, it ain't working out. Well, you don't know that. And then he got all nasty and started screwing with my work. Now, I can't prove it, but he was the one writing the spreadsheet and Word document scripts to create the inventory management system. And I'm just a clerk, right? I'm typing up the weekly meeting notes. Everything looks good. I print it out, and there's the same simple words misspelled throughout the whole document. So I reset the dictionary. I do a spell check. I look at the screen. It's all good. I print it out, and it's the same shit. So I just ship it, you know? And there's women in the break room getting all nasty. You spelled this wrong. You spelled that wrong. And I just laugh. It was the same with the QS 9000 documentation. You know, I'd print out a document, and there'd be the same simple words misspelled throughout the whole document. And I'd reset the dictionary, and I'd spell check, and everything looks good on the screen, and I'd print it out, and it'd be the same thing. Screw it. I just had them signed and put them in the binders. See? I mean, they cut my hours, they cut my pay for this clerk's position, and I wasn't there to do a job. I was just there to take my whoopings. So wait, it gets better. So he asked me again to come over and cut hair, and he's with this new woman, and I think he's moved on, and nope. I pull in, and she comes out the front door all nasty, and he's just standing there laughing. And the whole time I'm there, his 4 or 5-year-old son's just standing there frozen in the middle of the room, staring off into space, just hitting himself upside the head the whole time. Thump, 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 thump. And they're just walking around him like he's not even there, bragging on their stuff, bragging on their remodeling. And the whole time I'm there, my heart's just bleeding for this child. And I'm thinking, I'm hoping your pile of shit is finally big enough to take the focus off yourself for a minute and do something for your son. You know, I mean, if there was any doubt that I dodged a bullet with this guy, he cleared that right up. The kicker is, he never asked me out. He wasn't interested in me. He was just racing his ex into the next relationship. He was just looking for a body to fill his job description. I guess I was supposed to say, oh, it's a man god. Pick me, pick me. And you know, that child looked like what I felt like after Scott. Just a broken, empty shell. I felt like my soul had fled from the abuse. And what did I feel like? I felt like I crawled in the door at Church on the Rise, looking for some answers. And what did I get? Hit and run. Hit and run. I was just being punched and kicked and spit on by these women. Constant body shaming, trashing everything I said, everything I did, everything I had, everywhere I go. It's been 15 years. Now, you know, I worked in bars and restaurants for 3 or 4 years, and I worked in manufacturing for 6.5 years, and I am not complaining about the cat calls or the so-called compliments on my body parts or the cheesy pickup lines or, you know, the off-color jokes, the shop talk, the bar talk. I'm talking about these really trashing men, you know, bragging on their labels, of course. The guys who would bump into you and cop a feel and just stand there laughing, or felt like they had the right to corner you in an empty aisle of the grocery store, or approach you in the park and make some lewd comments about your body parts, or proposition you for sex. And it wasn't just me. Most of my friends, most women I knew, had had the same things happen to them. How about Johnson Controls? This place was Peyton's place. I mean, there were affairs, there was whoring around. I mean, it was all going on. How about the maintenance guys? Anytime they could corner me with no one around, they would be telling me what they'd do to my party parts and asking me to have sex with them and their friends and tell them who was better. And what did management say? What did our HR say? Don't say anything. Don't file a report. It'll only make your life difficult. It'll only end up costing you your job. I don't want anyone to lose their job. I just want it to stop. Oh no, just deal with it. How about the engineer? I had never had a conversation with this guy. I'd worked a few kaizans with him, but he stops me as I'm leaving one day and says, I'm leaving the company. We're all going to the bar. Why don't you stop by? Well, okay, that's not unusual. So I show up, and I'm the only one there. And he's bragging on himself and bragging on his sailboats. And then he says, my wife's pregnant. Would you sleep with me? No. But I guess all these people had their get out of jail free cards, right? Men are just some demigod who are entitled to all their bad behavior, and I'm just a slab of meat without an owner. How about all the married men? You know, these men in relationships, whether they lie about their relationship status or just didn't care. How about Klein? He owned this business next door to where I worked, and I was friends with the women who worked there, and I didn't really know him. I'd never had a conversation with him. But I'm in there talking to my friend about how I had just moved, and he says, oh, where'd you move? And I told him the street name. And he says, well, I'll stop over later with a bottle of wine. And I just laughed. You know, it's just the guy talk, right? Nope. I run into him like a week later, and he's pissed. I was there. And he's telling me, he's describing my house, and he's describing my cat in the window. This 60-something nasty old man drove 10 miles across town, drove down my street and found my car, and came knocking on my door expecting sex. And I was just in tears. Again, I was floored. And what did my friend say? Don't say anything. Don't tell your friends who work there. They'll only hate you for it. A while later, I'm working at Front Street now, and he comes in with 3 or 4 of his friends, and he's telling me to my face, that he's trying to pit me against the other barmaid. So I go over to Maria, and I tell her what's going on, and I'm like, just roll with it. Let's see what kind of tips we can make off these guys tonight, right? Nope, the end of the night, she's pissed. She refuses to speak to me. And sure enough, next shift I go in, and she's been accusing me of stealing. You know, same old baby games. I just lost all respect for her. Yeah, because men are demigods, entitled to their bad behavior, and well, women are the enemy. Here's another one. So this guy had come in. He'd come in once or twice a month. He wasn't a barfly. He wasn't a real regular. Everybody thought he was a great guy. My manager thought he was a great guy. And he asked me out. Okay. So I go out with this guy a few times, and I find out he's dating my manager's best friend. And she's furious. I mean, I go into work, and she's hyperventilating. And I am so sure I'm going to lose my job over this. But, I mean, they rarely ever came in at the same time, and they never talked like they had any kind of relationship, let alone were dating. How was I supposed to know? Right? So, a while later, my manager goes out of town, and her boyfriend, the owner, he corners me at the end of the night and starts hitting on me. No. And he fires me for it, on the spot. And here I am again in tears, and our mutual friends are saying, don't tell her, don't tell her. She knows he's whoring around every time she goes out of town. She'll only hate you for it. Well, and she calls me a week later saying, I don't know what happened, but we really need you. Well, what was I going to say? I already knew she was the type to blame the woman. But hey, men are the prize and women are the enemy, right? So now I'm talking to this woman I knew that I went to high school with, her and her boyfriend, and her boyfriend says, well, I'll call unemployment and see what you need to do. And he comes back and says, well, don't bother. You know, you won't get anything. I'll just give you a part-time job until you find a new job. Well, okay, thanks. So he comes in the morning and he's getting stoned and he's pressuring me for sex. And he'll get all nasty and he's trying to start a fight. You know? And I'm just like, and he's bragging on his label. Right? Now I can't pay the rent and I don't know what I'm going to do. And his girlfriend offers to rent me a room. Well, the last thing I want is to be any more caught up in this environment, right? So here I am in tears again, talking to my landlady, and she's like, well, just live out your deposit. It'll work out. Well, it did, kinda. I ended up at Henry's, where Tracy went on a campaign to get me fired because she got drunk at work and hit my car. So now explain to me why I'd be drinking and stealing from my employer, knowing that I would never get another job, knowing I would end up living in my car. I guess I'm just not that smart. I guess I just don't reason the right way, huh? Oh, and Richie, yeah, I took your coffee cups. You want me to send you a check? Am I going to hell for taking your coffee cup? But you got your get out of jail free card, right? Oh, one more. So I was friends with this woman for 8 years, right? And about 6 years in, her husband gets me alone and starts groping on me and trying to shove his tongue down my throat. No! And I'm in tears again. And what do my friends say? Don't tell her. She knows he's the biggest whore in town. She'll only hate you for it. Don't tell her. Well, I didn't know. I was hanging out with her while he's out working overtime. Not always, but a lot. So I back off and I quit calling. I quit going over there unless I know for sure he's not around. And he does the same thing. He gets all nasty and just starts pulling stupid shit. Pissed that I wouldn't sleep with him. But another one, bragging on his label. Guess he had his get out of jail free card, right? I was just a slab of meat without an owner. How about Vicki? I remember Vicki trying to fix me up with Sandy's husband. And I'm like, no, he's married. She's like, well, it's not working out. I'm like, you don't know that. Besides, I knew this couple well enough to think that we weren't compatible. I'm not saying he was a bad guy. I'm not saying he ever did anything wrong. And you know what she said? Go ahead, say it with me. She turned all purple and said, you're fat. See, none of that mattered. I guess I was just supposed to say, oh, it's a man god. Pick me, pick me. And yeah, this is the highlights. These are just highlights and just the abbreviated version. If I wanted to get even, if I wanted to make it personal, oh, I could dish some dirt. I could dish some dirt on all of these people. I could have a field day with Dave and Vicki. But I guess I'm just not that smart. I guess I just wasn't trained up the right way. See, and this is why it was so different with Scott. There were no head games. We never argued. We seemed to be on the same page on everything. And we dated for almost a year. He brought up marriage. He never really talked about his family. His mom was a realtor. His dad was retired. But nope, he brought up marriage. He was 30 years old now, and he had partied his way through college. And all he wanted was what his brother had. It's all he ever wanted. His brother was married with a wife and 2 kids. It's all he ever wanted. And we had those conversations, right? Now, I'd obviously never seen a good, healthy relationship. Certainly nothing I would ever want to have a relationship like. And this was a major life decision to me. Vicki certainly wasn't the kind of friend I'd have this kind of conversation with. So I go into this counselor, into this therapist, Lisa Peabody. And I want to talk about our relationship. We're discussing marriage, and I'm considering marrying this guy, right? This is good. You're going to love this. So, no, she starts digging into my family and digging into my childhood. You got to go back. You have to have a relationship with your mother. No, I don't. I went through counseling when I left home, and I went back as an adult and tried to have a relationship with her. Nothing had changed. I don't have to go back. So then she had me close my eyes and picture myself as a child going through what I went through, and all I did was sigh. And she jumps up and runs out of the room, and she's standing there in the hall saying, if you don't calm down, I'm going to have you hospitalized. What the hell? I'm fine. So finally she comes back in and tells me I need to go to this church and that I need to go to her group session. So I go to this church, and there aren't 12 people in this church, and they're all sitting as far away from each other as humanly possible. And this guy gets up there, and he's going on for 20 minutes, trashing the holiday crowd. He's angry. They don't give enough. They don't do enough. They don't come enough. Okay. So then I go to her group session, and there's like 5 or 6 women, and nobody's saying anything. Lisa's just going around pointing out everybody's issues. And we're all just sitting there staring at each other, right? So I go back one more time, yeah, because I'm not that smart. I wasted a good 6 weeks, I'm sure, going to this woman. And again, I try to talk to her about our relationship. We're discussing marriage. And what's she do? She cuts me off and starts dishing on the women in her group. She's telling me about the roommates, how the one roommate told her she had herpes, and she's telling the other one to disinfect the toilet seat. And then she's talking about the woman with multiple personalities. And Lisa's going on in detail about each one of this woman's different personalities. And then she sends me across the hall to this guy. And he says, Lisa says you need to be on this drug and you need to be on that drug. And I'm like, no, I don't need medication. I need someone to talk to. And she refuses to talk to me about what I came here for. So he puts his prescription pad aside and goes to his computer screen and says, well, I'll make you an appointment for next week. No, I'm not coming back. You know, he totally blew me off. And you know, I used to kick myself for not saying more. I mean, I don't even have the words to describe how unprofessional this woman was being. But you know what my perception is now, don't you? She was just a church lady giddy with her power to fuck with people. There were 2 other church experiences I had before Church on the Rise. And I don't want you to think I'm missing anything, so I'm going to tell you. Once when I was a little kid, I went down the street with the neighbor kids to this fair, and this guy is telling us, you're going to hell because you cried when you were a baby. Do you want Jesus to save you? We're like, okay. And he's like, okay, you're saved. Aren't you happy? You're saved. Bye-bye. Okay, if that's all I need, I'm going to stick with that. And then there was once right after high school, this guy I was dating told me his friends suggested we go to this church. Well, I don't know. Okay. So we go, and there are 6 couples in the front row. That's it. And this guy gets up and he starts talking for like 2 or 3 minutes. And then he says, look, we have visitors. And these couples turn around, and I'm telling you, if looks could kill, we'd have been splattered on the wall. Bug-eyed, snarly. Couldn't have been any more unwelcoming. And we obviously didn't look the right way. I mean, the men were in suits, and all the women had real simple haircuts, no makeup, long sleeves, high collars, just real simple. Real plain, right? And this was the 80s. I'm dating a long hair whose only goal in life is to look cool. And I'm a teenager and a hairdresser. Full makeup, big 80s hair, might even been purple or blue at the time, I don't recall. But I never understood why his friend would ever send us to that church. And I didn't know him. I'd only met him once in passing. But he obviously didn't like me, did he? Oh, and how about Vicki's? I was at Vicki's the day Johnny's girlfriend took him to church. And I think he was like a senior in high school. I mean, 12 years. Never spoke of God, never spoke of religion, neither one of them. And Johnny and his friends come in. Johnny went to church. Johnny got saved. And, you know, Dave started, I went to cat school. I went to cat school. And Vicki, she just got real busy looking busy. Never said a word. Never made eye contact. And you know I didn't say anything. I just nod and smile. Nod and smile. I guess I had that much right until I didn't, huh? And how about Scott? Before we got married, he wanted me to know his religion, but that's all he ever said. His family didn't want to go to church. And after we got married, he never said a word about his religion, didn't want to go to church. The only time he ever brought up his beliefs was when his uncle died. And you know what he said? Why did God do this to me? What do you think happened to him? Literally. 5 years. Literally. It didn't mean a damn thing to him. It was just a get-out-of-jail-free card, and I was just an object to be used. Just an easy target. So now I think I know why none of those girls or women ever took me to church. Because men are the prize and women are the enemy, right? I think I know who I've been defending myself against my whole life. Now I can tell you the specific day all of this changed. Okay, I'm in the grocery store buying a bag of pretzels to take to the pastor's wife's group at Church on the Rise. And this pruny, ugly old man comes down the aisle and makes some crude negative comment about my body. And just walks away laughing. And I'm not going to pretend it didn't sting just a little, but honestly, it was an overwhelming feeling of relief. It felt liberating to think I was finally at the age or the size where these creeps were no longer interested in me, who no longer saw me as just an object that they were entitled to. But it wasn't long before I realized I was just being stalked and trolled by a religiously fueled terrorist hate group. And you know, I tried. I tried for years in the church. I begged. I paid professionals who all just lied to my face and jumped right in. And you know, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Just go down below and read the troll playlist. That's the only church I ever found, and it's been nonstop for 15 years. And this was long before Dave and Vicki. I mean, I would have been so much more comfortable in a motel room, but they jumped at the chance to help. Stay here, save some money. And I thought maybe Vicki would give me some insight as to what was going on. You know, I mean, everywhere. It was the same thing everywhere. Every aspect of my life, immediately, at work, at church, in doctor's offices, in businesses I'd been to, even on the street, total strangers. But nope, Dave had made me the enemy and Vicki was on a mission. I was just an easy target. Explain to me why. I mean, Vicki was so insecure over every little thing. Why would Vicki stay friends with me for 13 years if she thought I had any interest in Dave? We worked together for, 6.5 years? And after that, we never worked in the same place. We didn't work in the same industry. We didn't live in the same county. We didn't even hang in the same circles. I knew her friends, but we didn't hang out or talk unless we were with Vicki. So why'd she keep calling? Guess I'm just not that smart. Guess I just don't reason the right way. 15 years it's been constant body shaming, trashing everything I say, everything I do, everything I have, everywhere I go. Hypersexual, hyper-material, nasty little comments, just hit and run. And it's still none of my business why. I still have no right to defend myself, and I'm still just taking my whoopings. Still following me around with their fakey coughs, making nasty comments in the Carrie face and saying, it's just a joke, it's just a joke. What's the matter, can't take a joke? Oh, it is a joke. It's been one hell of a joke. So you don't mind if I get bragging on your jokes, right? It's just a joke. Still messing with my car, still messing with my house. I'm being poisoned again. It's all about the man god, it's all about the dollar signs. All about the power to kill, steal, and destroy. So I'm going to get a few more videos out here quickly while I can. You know, I figure between being poisoned and the coronavirus, you're going to send me home to my God here real soon. So let me see if I got this right, though. For 15 years, you've been trying to teach me that a woman's only purpose in life is to catch a man god, have a kid, and then spend the next 40, 60, 80 years tearing the people around her down, trying to feel special and superior because of her specific pile of shit. You know, I'd rather be alone than ever be that lonely. Special. So much special. It's another one of those words that's just lost all meaning. I mean, I never found a leader or a teacher in a church. If anybody had led or actually taught, then they wouldn't have the only right stuff and be the only right way. Because then they wouldn't be special, right? Guess I'm supposed to believe I'm just a slab of meat without an owner. Just an object to be owned or used. I have no value in your culture outside of being an incubator. No soul, no value to your God. I have to catch a ride on some man's coattails to get into heaven, right? I don't know how many of these churches there'd be some guy walking around booming, 50 years I was a gambler and I was a player and I got Jesus and I'm forgiven. I guess that only applies to the man gods, huh? Guess you have to be a complete and whole human being and actually have a soul. What you're trying to tell me is I need to be married to one of these men in order to be protected from these men, right? I need to agree to be used and manipulated by the one person in this world that I'm supposed to be in partnership with, to be cheated on, to have them hit on my friends, to have them bring strange women into my life and house to make me jealous and insecure, and worse, that I'm not entitled to be treated fairly in the businesses, that I'm, have to have a man god in order to not be charged over $10,000 for a mortgage, or $30,000 to have a filling replaced by a general family dentist, or to get what I pay for. Yeah, I guess I really do belong in the atheist group. And you know what? After 4.5 years in the church, I left. And it's still following me. I left the city. Still following me. I left the state again and again. Over 1,200 miles across 4 states. And it's still none of my business why. Still no right to defend myself. And I'm still just taking my whoopings. So thank you, Jesus, that I wasn't born into the right family. That I didn't have the right education. That I never looked the right way for this shallow, petty, hypersexual, hypermaterialistic, tyrant version of God. A God that can't be pleased, that doesn't want to be pleased, that just wants to dominate and control, kill, steal, and destroy. And if I'm going to hell, it sounds like one hell of an upgrade. But that was never my choice, was it? I mean, you've been playing judge, jury, and executioner since the day I walked in the door. And I see it. I can see it. It's got to be so much more fulfilling to create an army, to terrorize and attack a total stranger, and follow me across the country for 15 years, than it is to just show up every week and trash on each other for the same shallow, superficial shit every week. She don't have the right color. She don't have the right label. She don't have it the right way. I'm the only right way. Well, not just me. Not just me. Everyone. Well, there you go. Majority wins. You won.